Hi everyone, great to see so many people here. I'm going to talk a bit about the political and economic environment and the cuts we've been facing over the last couple of years, briefly before handing over to Brenda, who's going to talk about the campaign that we're going to be running. Clearly, we know we're living in tough times. We don't need to read the papers about that. We find that out from our members. Times are hard, jobs are down, pressures on our members, and cost of living is rising. But let's not be fooled into thinking that these times are a good excuse for the sort of political policies we see dressed up as pragmatism. They're not at all. Policies like cutting government spending, cutting public services, squeezing health budgets, privatising and so on, have been promoted as the only sensible answer to the predicament New Zealand's in. But if you think about it, these are exactly the same policies we've heard come hell or high water. It doesn't matter what situation we're in, the same people in that political part of the political spectrum say, we've got to cut the government, the economy's overheating. We've got to cut government spending because the economy's diving. We've got to cut the state because somehow it's an enemy of the people. And that small government, cutting public services, cutting taxes and privatisation is the same old recipe, and it's really ideology and political faith. It's not about addressing New Zealand's problems. And what we need is a proper discussion about that. Somehow we're being led to believe that public services are somehow bad for the public. Sort of an oxymoron, isn't it? That somehow egalitarianism is really the politics of envy. That somehow we should sell our own assets, our own profitable assets, to the stock market because they need something to spark them up over there where they can't find anything to do with their money. It really just doesn't make sense, and we need some proper discussion about that. The constant pitching of the public service and the state versus the public interest as a zero-sum game is ridiculous. And it really needs to be, we don't buy into that political rhetoric. A strong state sector supports social and economic prosperity. It is not an enemy of those things. About this time in the political cycle 3 years ago, we had National promising a steady as she goes sort of, agenda. Don't worry about it. We had John Key come to our National Congress, and he made quite a lot of commitments. He said, and I quote, "Our tax cuts will not require cuts to public services." End of quote. He said he'd maintain public sector staffing levels. He said there'd be no, along the campaign trail, there'd be no changes to KiwiSaver, working for families, interest-free for student loans, no increase to GST. I won't even go on. And what we got was a tax switch from the poor to the rich, and an overall tax reduction of something like $4.5 billion, which has had to be funded by cuts, well they say has to be funded by cuts to public services and not through borrowing. And obviously this stuff affects our members as much or more than anyone else, both as citizens of New Zealand, but people who are having to work in a very tightly constrained environment. They're under attack, and there's a very long list of public sector jobs and services that have gone that I haven't got time to read, but it's like 2,000 jobs in the government departments alone. Now with the latest budget, we're hearing another $980 million, nearly $1 billion to come out of state spending over the next 3 years. All dressed up as, this is what we have to do because there's no alternative. And I think we've heard that there's no alternative rubbish before in times gone by. There are alternatives. A strong public service and an active government working for the good of all New Zealand citizens, not just a few, to deliver on programs that support social and economic prosperity. Sure, New Zealand has a debt problem, but it's not like Greece, Ireland, Spain and Italy and so on, or the US. It's a private debt problem. New Zealand government books are good, very good. Most countries would give their eye teeth for the state of our public and government accounts, thanks to the clever management, I would say, over the years before. In this context, cutting public services and selling assets doesn't add up at all. In fact, the state is in a good position to maintain spending, maintain investment and jobs, instead of leading us into the doldrums, which they seem to be doing. So there needs to be a strong voice against the cuts, and a strong voice for better public services and community services, and for the people who deliver them. And we want to make sure and really push for a genuine debate on those issues. So we're launching a campaign, and after Avon, Brenda will be speaking about that campaign. Thank you.